Well, hello, everyone.
How's it going?
Good, and you?
Good.
Good. You have a safe trip back?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a delay in Denver. We had to wait like an hour to get a runway to leave to Cleveland, so I didn't get home till midnight.
Oh, man.
I took the day off. I preemptively took that day off for work Monday, so I got back Tuesday. And then
Yeah.
we had a new guy start Wednesday. So it's been interesting.
Yeah. Always got to come back to some fires to put out, right?
Right, and training a new person and there's
Absolutely.
always fires.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
To say
Well,
that
good. I'm
better,
glad you made it back.
Yeah.
a lot better than DeMont did. He sat for 2 hours in the Vegas airport on the runway.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Well, I had
no.
a 2 hour delay leaving Cleveland to get to the thing to begin with. Couldn't fly into Chicago. There was all kinds of weather, and I had to run through O'Hare to get my connecting flight to Vegas.
That's crazy. Everybody I talk to seemed to have either flight cancellations or delays.
Yeah, there was
Like
a lot of
everybody. It was just horrible this year. So
yeah.
that's
Maybe that you were smart for driving, but it would be a little bit of a
a little more drive for you. Yeah, and we had traffic coming in, so it was brutal coming in. There actually wasn't any going home, so it wasn't that bad. It's just you've been in Vegas and Aloha all week and going nonstop, and you're tired, and the last thing you want to do is drive home for 8 or 9 hours. But it is what it is. So
I guess I'm weird. I had no problems going or coming.
Well,
you're lucky.
Left Detroit right on time into Vegas, coming back right on time, coming back to Detroit.
Well, they can't mess with the president. I mean, they know that.
He's got Secret Service helping him.
Right. He had that fancy room. And, yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Well, it's 5 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get this thing started. We've kind of got a conglomerate of special guests that I'd like to go with today. I don't have like a proper presentation prepared. I thought that would be a whole lot more fun to do just a little bit more of a recap. So I'd like to hear from Mark Dawson, who won an award over Aloha. I'd like to hear, I think he had some really, really good points to make for people that aren't members of Aloha that used to be, and maybe had some issues with the way things were running. And now maybe we've changed a lot of things and there are some reasons that they could come over. So Mark, I definitely want to talk to you. In fact, I'll probably bring you on first, and then we'll talk to Jeff. I'd like to get a first timers opinion and just an overview or overall what you thought about the whole procedure and the convention as a whole, both the fun and the learning portions of it. You were a recipient of a scholarship, correct, Jeff?
Yeah, not through ASF, but through Penn Ohio Locksmith Association.
Okay, great. And then I would like finally to wrap it up to kind of sandwich, some old guard Aloha, a new member, and then old guard Aloha. I'd like Bill Mandelbaum to go ahead and maybe take after you go, if that's okay. If everybody's okay with that arrangement. Are you okay with that, Mark? Okay. Do you have the ability to unmute your microphone?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. That's beautiful. I like your office, sir.
Yeah, this is my home office, so there's not too much lock-related stuff in here. It's all stashed away where it belongs. I try to keep all that at the work office.
Oh, my goodness.
Hey, first I want to thank each and every person who came to this year's event. As you all know, that our group, our organization, every member is part owner of this organization. And when you attend these events and build relationships and further your education, if you personally can't see the value in that after you leave an event like this, you got something wrong with you. But at the same time, sometimes it takes that little poke to get people in the right seat and say, look, this is how I've gotten where I've got. In this industry, I built relationships. I went to events. I saw new products. I learned things on my own because I wanted to be more valuable to my employer or more valuable to my family. And I didn't want to look like an absolute idiot in front of my customers. So it makes a world of difference. Professionalism is everything. And if all we want to do is be by ourselves and go out in our cars every day and just look however, there's a lot of guys doing that. And I'd much rather have in my back pocket the ability to tell any customer, man, you know, I've been in this a long time. I've never seen this situation before, but I have 3 or 4 different guys I can call and I'll get an answer to you later today. It is so powerful when you have that capability. And again, so thank you for all of those that attended. ALOA is a different organization, even than what it was 6 years ago when I first started serving on the board. Number one, it became much more financially stable over the past decade. And 6 years ago when I started, I met Noel Flynn and some of the other fine board members. And what I found out was that the existing board, most of the guys who are still there today, they are truly committed and dedicated to righting the ship and getting this organization on a path of health and prosperity to where it can serve for many years into the future. And I'm glad to be on that ship myself. I was just a swabby for the first couple of years, but I have become a real doer. And I really enjoy my roles in the committees I serve on, as well as where we're going. And for anyone who has been in the industry a long time, who may say, oh, ALOA is just the same old people, same old whatever, you're obviously not looking. If you were wronged at some other date and time in your career by somebody from ALOA or anyone in leadership of any organization, all you have to do is wait long enough for that leadership to shift. And you can go back and get re-involved again and maybe help be part of the correct culture rather than the cancerous culture that we experience in our own workplaces, in our own customer bases, as well as in the organizations we want to serve. But this year, we don't have final numbers in. We probably won't see those for a couple of months. We've got a lot of outstanding bills to vendors and things like that that will have to be resolved still. But by our fall board meeting, we should know whether or not this was truly a success or not for the actual profit margins. Our organization makes money off of 2 things: membership and events. And as everyone knows, for the 2 years during the thrust of the pandemic, we canceled all our events. And we were on a slippery slope to go bankrupt. And if it wasn't for Bill and Jim and Noel and several others who sat on the steering committee, which also had 2 other divisions to it, a revenue production committee, as well as a cost-cutting committee, those guys worked really hard to turn a possible $1.265 million loss into a $300,000 loss for the year. And I applaud them for their efforts. It wasn't easy. And some people at ALOA lost their jobs and they'll never be coming back. The staff had to be trimmed. And so this organization, like any business, it has its ups and downs, and we had to protect it the best we could. So I'm happy to answer questions, and our president, Bill, is on the call tonight. He can answer any questions. What I can't do is speak on behalf of the entire board. So if you ask me a direction that I might have an opinion on, I can share that, but it doesn't mean anything.
Right. Thank you. And those are a lot of points that I was really hoping that you would bring up. These are conversations that you and I have had, you know, in private before. And I really think we have a powerful platform here. You've got over 20 people live, and then we have the power to record this and send this out to every ALOA member. We can send this recording to every supplier out there that can send this out to their people, and it's completely free. All people have to do is give a little bit of their time and watch. Okay. So this is really what I've done, is given a huge platform and stage for ALOA to both be open and transparent about where its current condition is now, where it was before, and where you would like to see it go. And, you know, as one of the members that was able to get up and kind of speak during the ALOA members meeting, you know, I never am going to bring a problem to the board without already having a solution to it. And I want people to know that. And before, I want people to think about that before they really ask their questions. If you have a question or you have something that you would like to see change or be righted, that's great. And I highly encourage that. But I also encourage you to come up with an answer or solution, or at least one thing to step in that right direction, not just throw poo-poo against the wall and say, you know, well, they did this to me and they did that to me, and what are they doing for me? I hate it when I hear that, because I agree with you 100%. I made so many connections between networking and just being there, being present, seeing the new things that are available. How many people had trouble getting encodes the last year, right? How many people out there have had trouble getting encodes? Lots of people, right? Well, I met a company called Locksmiths who has a way better product and has cameras built into their locks and all kinds of stuff. And they don't have any supply chain issues. So guess who I'm going with now? Not to mention, I can buy those locks at locksmith cost, not at full retail. So now I've just improved my profit margins. I mean, however many of those locks I sell over the next year is going to quadruple my profits over installing encodes because of the cost and because I can actually get them and sell them. So right then and there, I guarantee you I'll make $10,000 this year off of electronic locks alone. And the other one is they have commercial products. Now, we love Alarm Lock. Alarm Lock's great. I called in last week. I couldn't get a 1200 or a 1250. Couldn't find it no matter what. Okay. These guys have a solution for that as well. So now I've got multiple solutions for multiple answers, and I've got extra tools in my bag. And that was all from networking, from going here. We went out and had dinner with the Allegiant guys. You know, we met some new people there. We got a chance to talk to some people at Academy Locksmith who are excellent NSP companies to work with. Everybody hates, you know, working with NSPs. Academy is fantastic. The Academy works harder to pay me than I do trying to get paid by them. They're literally picking up the phone and calling me every 5 minutes. Is the job done? Can we give you a credit card? Can we give you a credit card? And I'm like, yes, you can give me a credit card. I will take that over the phone right now. So we made a lot of bonds and a lot of networking and brought in, I'm going to do a tremendous amount of business. I'm going to completely restructure my electronic access installation and product that we use. And that is all thanks to this trip, you know, not to mention the fun side of things too. You know, there's plenty that can be learned sitting at the bar, having a beer with somebody who's been in business 20 years longer than you have, or having dinner with somebody. So I just want to put all that out there and just kind of see what you guys have to say about any of those different things. And yeah, Mark, you know, you hit the nail on the head. Just because ALOA did something 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago doesn't mean that it's the same ALOA now. This is the whole point of the voting system. This is ran just like, you know, the presidency, for crying out loud. People get voted in by the members, and if you don't like that particular person that's in the big chair that year, wait a couple years and cast your vote or run against them. You know what I mean? Put your hat in the ring. If you want to drive the ship, there's no reason that anybody can't, you know? So does anybody have any questions for Mark Dawson about ALOA, if you're thinking about becoming a member, or if you are a member, addressing some of the concerns that you may have? We can put those in the chat box if you can't open your mic, or if you'd like to open your mic, please, one at a time. Questions? Comments?
Yeah, since nothing's coming in right there, if you guys do have anything, put it in the chat box. We have other representatives from ALOA on this call. We'll all be keeping an eye on it.
Okay.
I serve the South Central region, which is Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. And I'd like to congratulate Wayne, number one, on how he approached this convention. He had a perfect balance of fun time with his family, as well as work time with what he needed to invest in. And if you can plan your trips properly, there is no reason you cannot afford to enjoy a convention that your company can help you fund the expenses for, as well as mix in a lot of pleasure with your wife and kids and whoever else you bring with you. So keep in mind that if you plan properly, you can balance this thing out to have a blast.
Yeah, that was, we had a great time. You know, we showed up Sunday. I spent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just kind of, you know, hanging out with the wife. We went and had lunch at the dinner at the Stratosphere one night. Then we did the Neon Museum. That's another night thing. We did kayaking during the day on Tuesday. Just kind of had a lazy day on Wednesday and had one more dinner over at the Fountains by Bellagio. And was it expensive? Yeah, but when am I going to have the chance to do that again? It's the perfect opportunity. Like you said, why not blend the work and the home life and make it all that it can be and welcome your family into it? It shouldn't be a dreaded, oh, dad's going to be gone and, you know, doing who knows what in Vegas for a week. It's bring them into it, make it fun for them, make them want to go to the next convention. You know, that's why they have it in Las Vegas. That's why they have it in Orlando. That's why they have it in these fun places, so that there's other things for people's families to do. And I highly, highly encourage that for sure.
Did anybody have their kids on the show floor? Try to get them to learn the trade.
I didn't bring mine this year. They came last time. So they were on the showroom floor last time. Bill, go ahead.
I'll just say one thing, Wayne, do not do it like I did 5 years ago.
Uh-oh.
I was Northeast director and I spent my 50th wedding anniversary sitting in the membership meeting. And that got expensive. That was very expensive. My wife got to pick the restaurant that night.
See, she knows where to get you. Well, that's good. That's good stuff. Mark, can you tell us a little bit more about your award, what you won, and kind of some things that went behind that? That was a really special deal there.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Number one, I was taken completely by surprise because people who serve and do what they do behind the scenes, they normally don't want to be recognized. And that's exactly why they gave me an award. They knew it would embarrass me and they just moved forward with it. So the Lee Rogner Award, I didn't know who Lee was. And it is an award for cooperation and encouraged cooperation between the associations. So any of you who know me know that I'm a member of GHLA, which is the Greater Houston's Locksmith Association, the Texas Locksmiths Association, and ALOA. I'm a member and 28-year member of SAFTA. And I'm also a member on the electronics side. And I've tried to meld these businesses together, these association relationships. TBFAA is the Texas Burglar and Fire Alarm Association. GCA, the Greater Gulf Coast Area Alarm Association. I mean, there's so many acronyms here. We just start saying EIEIO afterwards. It's kind of a joke in Aloha with all the divisions we have. But Lee Rognan, her husband, Robert, they were incredible back in the 50s and even into the 60s. They were absolute helpers when it came down to developing associations, and they helped found ALOA as it was. And Lee Rognan was the first executive director of ALOA. She had the role of what Mary May has today. And just an incredible woman. John Trumpy wrote a big story about her back in 2013, 2014 in Keynotes. And that was forwarded to me after the fact because I did ask about it. I said I didn't know who she was. I wanted more information. And so Lee Rognan is the only person in our industry ever, and this ought to blow your socks off, to win the Philadelphia Award 2 times.
Wow.
2 times.
Wow.
And you talk about the most prestigious award that could be bestowed upon you in this industry. I didn't even think the guys in Philly knew who I was, let alone give me any kind of award. But I was thankful for it. I now saw the video that Wayne shot of me. I thought I was just mumbling up there, but apparently I did have something that was positive to say and a good thought to share with people. So I'm glad I kept some clarity about myself. I was completely taken aback by it. But
You handled it amazingly well. I thought you did. I thought you did extremely well. Very humble and very genuinely surprised and very sincere. I can tell that everything was said came from the heart, because that's probably all you could speak with, because your mind was probably a little cloudy.
pretty much, if I could wish that moment on everyone in our industry from someone somewhere to recognize you for your hard work. And more than that, it's not just hard work. We get a paycheck for that. But when you get recognized for your benevolence or your mentorship or your cooperation with others, that's what's really powerful sometimes. That's somebody saying, hey, you don't have to be this way, but we appreciate you that you are. And I was just absolutely blessed to get it.
There's people that are good, and when you put in good work, you get average results. When you put in excellent work, you get good results. When you put in outstanding, meaning you stand out in the community, in the trade, in the industry, when you stand out, that means that you are outstanding, and those are the people that are getting those awards. So I know that you just think that you're kind of like me. This is just me giving back. I've gotten so much, and this has been so blessed for me and my family for this trade and this industry, that we just want to keep giving back. And the more people that can give back and give and give and give and give, those are the people that stand out and that deserve those kind of awards. So I just want to do one more congratulations. It's very well earned, very, very well. It couldn't have gone to a better person. I can't think of a better mentor for me personally, in just the dinners and the business meetings that we've had throughout the years in Texas and through Aloha and through GHLA and TLA, and all of it all combined really has helped me out too. So you're right up there in that mentorship of myself as well. An inspiration.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All righty. Well, that's great. We'll try and get that video by the time we get wrapped up here. We'll just see how interviews go. We're looking at about 20 minutes right now. So now I'd like to move over to Jeff, and feel free to chime back in anytime you want if you've got something to say, Mark or Bill. But Jeff, let's move to you. What did you think of Aloha? What did you think Aloha was before you went? Well, and what do you think of it now? What was your experience like?
I guess the biggest takeaway that I got out of it is the value of the cost of membership, because it is significantly more expensive than, POLA membership or my Masonic Lodge or things like that. But seeing the convention and seeing all the moving parts and the people and the things that it takes, I now get a better understanding of what it costs to be a member and run this organization, and what, so I filled out an application, and I'm very excited to join and be a part and help out. The regional local associations are great.
Yeah.
But I think on a national level, like you said, just being able to have even more people to network with. I needed a part for something, and Tyler had it, and Tyler has a lot of things, but there's other people out there. What if, just, and ClearStar is a big part of that too, but also being part of the national organization and having that, I don't know that I'm going to, people don't necessarily know about Aloha or the certifications except people in the industry. But to get more customer education and more, things to look for out there, I'm fortunate that the shop I work at's been around for a very long time, and they have a good reputation, but there's people out there that don't, and that are doing, like what he's talking about in the comments. And, this guy who posted his master keying paper and was complaining that somebody at Aloha, or somebody was talking about it, but they're teaching classes to other locksmiths, and he doesn't seem to get, like, if there's a big difference between giving this information to anybody in the world or teaching it to people in the trade who, are vouched for, and people, that they're not going to go out and make a key for something that they're not supposed to. So I think that there's still a disconnect with that. It's, all this information is out there, and there's a lot of people that will just share it to anybody. And I think that, there's a fine line between giving somebody all the information because they want to learn. It's hard. Like I said, we hired a new person at work, and he's completely green. On the first day, all he knew about keys was that he used them in his front door or whatever. And he had cut 100 and some keys, me being, also a collector and things like that, you start trying to explain, well, this is the head of the key, this is the thing, like, and the boss is like, don't overwhelm him on his first day. Well, you still got to know how the stuff works.
Got to have the basics.
And if he's going to do this long term, I would you can learn a lot from other people at work, but the value of the classes and, people that were going through the Aloha fundamentals of locksmithing, I didn't get to see that class personally, but there were people that have probably were very green as well. The classes I took were certainly more advanced, especially the master keying class. The classes with Bill Link are always good. I know him, he's one of those same people that I can message anytime if you need something or you need some information. And that was only, that was because he's also a POLA member. But just being able to network with people, to sit next to them, got to shake hands with, most people wouldn't even know who, Bo Wyden is, but like, hey, this is the guy that invented ASA and Primus. That's a big deal. I use that stuff all day.
Yeah.
Getting able to talk to the sales reps and try to get answers to some of your questions and see what some of the new stuff is that's out there that I don't know about. That's worth the cost of admission.
Wow. Sure. Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit more? Like, have you taken any classes or taken any kind of educational programs that were not Aloha classes? And then can you tell us how your Aloha classes kind of compared with that? Like, what was the caliber of education and educator that were actually there? Because if you took one of Bill Link's classes, I mean, that man is very skilled and very a great teacher.
So when I first joined POLA, I took one of his classes as a small format IC, is an 8-hour class. I had his book, so I sort of knew who he was. And I'd only been actually professionally locksmithing for about a year, but I'd been well, I do this all day. I know IC. What am I going to learn? And I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And even though, and that isn't Aloha PRP type class, that was the only one that I think that I really took, besides some Aloha webinars and then the 2-hour seminars that we always do at POLA for almost every meeting. Somebody brings up a topic, can you bring in leashes, or can you show impressioning or safe lock servicing? And it's more of everybody helping each other, and it's good and bad because everybody wants to show you their way, which you certainly learn. But when you have one instructor and a helper, it's like at work when you have 6 people that have been locksmithing for well over 100 years put together.
It's 6 different ways.
Do it this way. No, do it this way. No, that's not the way to do it. Well, actually, the manual says to do this, and it's like everybody, determine the way versus what the book says. That makes a difference. But no, all the classes, I've never taken anything that I thought was bad or a waste of time or a waste of money. Even the manufacturer webinars where it's more based on their product, and you could say that they're trying to sell you something. Well, they are, because it's if the class is from Best, they're not really going to teach you other people's padlocks. Everything you know about their part numbers and how to deal with the factory. All the factories have their own little idiosyncrasies. So no, I think you could spend conceivably, to paraphrase what Bill Link was saying, you could do an 8-hour class on every manufacturer of IC that he went over in one day. So if you don't work with that stuff, you're getting a high level overview. and you're seeing it, but there's not enough time in a day to take every cylinder apart, pin it up, have problems with it, which that's what really happens in the shop and in the real world is the sergeant stuff.
Problems.
You pin it up, doesn't work.
Right.
Well, when you're in the class, everything works great.
Sure.
And that's just a nature of the time.
Right.
Tyler and I spent some time in his shop a few months ago, and he has a video, pinning up the sergeant degree that I struggled with for quite a while. And because, your mind is in one place because that's a pin kit you've never seen before, and the concept, but the numbers are different. So I was
Right.
putting the wrong top pin in a master pin or whatever, and then the light bulb goes off. If you don't work on Medico all day, it's hard to teach somebody, it's like you can't, because they don't know how it works, you can't start, you have to start
You got
with,
to go back to the basics.
Yeah.
You got to go back to the basics. You got to you almost have to let go of all that other knowledge and
Right.
not try and apply it to this. So
Right.
what you're saying is that the Aloha education, it was nice to have one instructor, one set way how to do it, hear their performance out, and then once you get that base or that foundation for what you came there to learn, then you can put your own spin on it as you do it. Once you have that foundation, and then you can kind of add your own things and develop your own kind of funky style to it.
right. And people were sharing, tips and tricks that they use, and he encouraged. I'm not saying that it was, he's very dynamic and everybody can participate and say, hey, this is, something that we found that works better. You're not always going to do it exactly like the manual says. And he encourages sharing all that. But yeah, sometimes when you get too many people showing things, you're like, okay, how do I want to do this?
Yeah.
It's
Overload. Your brain can only handle like 7 things at one
Right.
time. And when you go past that, it just
Yeah.
jumbles them all up.
like the master keying class, which was very, I'll say, brain intensive and not hands-on. I mean, it was a good class, and it's just like still trying to, because you don't have the system in front of you, you don't have the cylinders. When you can see it and really how it works, and like my boss has been doing master keying for a very long time, and we maintain some systems that go back, 40 years, and they're still in use and they still work.
Right.
Everybody sort of, has their specialty. But I think overall, the networking, the talking to people at the breaks and having dinners together, and, even just seeing people in the halls like, oh, hey, you're here. I see your badge or whatever. You're wearing a Aloha shirt. Like, hey, where are you from? Being able to, break bread like we did,
Yeah.
to meet with, to meet with each other as people, is a
Right.
big thing. And,
See how people are behind the job,
And I'll
right?
be
See how
for-
people are personal.
right. And,
Yeah.
we've had differences and people are different in
Yeah.
front of, behind a computer, but
Yeah.
actually, getting to meet the person and be like, okay, this is really what they're trying to do. And this is how they want to do it. And, sitting in on a membership meeting, I've never saw that before. So I have nothing really to base it off of other than other organizations I'm a part of, where there is not as much back and forth with the, members, people in the audience, let's say. You watch a city council meeting, they don't engage with, the residents or the citizens can say what they want, and they just, okay, thank you, we'll get back to you. The only back and forth would be between, the mayor and the councilman, or the mayor and the, the police, so that sort of thing. And it was nice to have that opportunity to have some dialogue.
Did you feel heard? Did you felt like you could say what you wanted? And did you feel like the board was actually listening to you, and that they were going to like take what you said into consideration, or take what other people?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think, from what I see, just as a 1,000-foot view, is the people that complain about it aren't members. So, they're the ones online saying, oh, this, well, are you a member? No, I haven't been a member in 20 years. So yes, I think the board was listening. My comment was just a thank you to what was, to being able to be there. But
Yeah.
yeah, other people, I think, there were some heated moments, but I think and I hope that they understand some of the issues as far as, barriers to entry to get in the trade. An example is this kid who, and he's a kid because he's 10 years younger than me, worked in it similar to me, worked in a desk job, didn't like it, wanted to get into a trade, discovered locksmithing, called several shops. They either didn't get back to him, blew him off, said to send a resume, never got back to him. So out of, say, 10 shops, only one interviewed him and gave him a chance. That you want everybody, so you want somebody who's 20 years old with 30 years experience.
Right.
People like me who, in this, again, I had more experience than he did, I was, so you come in knowing some things, I
Right.
read a lot of different stuff. And so at least I had some knowledge. But it's tough to find people willing to work and learn, but then sometimes we're our own worst enemy because you have somebody who wants to learn it. And like, from what this guy was saying, like, you don't even, and he was cold calling people. So maybe that was part of it.
Right.
But my boss had been advertising for a while and looking for somebody to help. And, it's tough. Either they're not the right fit or whatever it is, but to not even give somebody, it's tough.
That's a good point right there. And let me capitalize on that if I can real quick. I want to ask two questions to you. One is, if you hadn't have won the scholarship, would you have ever come?
Probably not.
Okay. So what could Aloha do to entice more people to come? Is it expressing and showing, like, if more members showed how fun it was, like if Aloha looks like a total awesome party and like they're missing out, would that encourage people to come more? Like if you see more of it on social media?
That's,
talking.
Well, are you talking, because the package of classes is one significantly larger cost than if you were to just fly
just to get your foot in the door.
Right. If you just went to the trade show, you're still flying, you're spending a couple days, you're paying whatever it costs to get to the exhibits.
Yeah.
That would be cool to go to no matter what.
Right.
It'd be an expensive weekend trip, but the class part of it, I never really thought about. I just put my name in a hat and didn't think I was going to get picked.
And then boom, that now you see the value that it added.
Yeah.
So now that's the second part of my question. Now that you've been, and now that you've actually seen it, if you were going to take a class, if you were going to, like, if you wanted to learn, if your boss was like, hey, I really need you to learn electronic access, would you come to an Aloha class next year over something else just to get that knowledge? And would that mean more to your boss and be more valuable to them to have you take an Aloha class?
As a hypothetical where my boss would actually be sending me, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
then even if you're spending it for yourself, would you do it for yourself?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
But you would want to make it worth your own while to fly to Vegas to take one day of classes wouldn't really be.
Yeah.
It would be, you get a good value, but it wouldn't be as much as being there for the whole week, seeing everything, meeting everybody, being able to take more than one class, especially because the classes that I took and I chose because they build upon each other.
Right.
I knew the instructor because I've worked with him on other things. So, the other classes were sort of just, I have to take something on the first day because his class isn't until the next day. And I learned a lot too. That was the advanced breaking and entering with Dave from IML. And
Did you learn a lot of new stuff in that one?
And again, because I'm in the shop 99% of the time, most of what I only get to hear, oh yeah, this broke and we had to do this, and this. But actually seeing more of this stuff and the tools that, we may not have, was pretty cool. Yeah. And
Cool.
It was not, even though he works for a distributor, it was not any type of sales push, you can get these tools anywhere, whatever, it was very good. And he was teaching some very hands-on stuff. He had doors and frames and panic bars and closures. He had some very in-depth stuff.
It was worth it.
And I would like to take that sort of stuff because I don't get to do that, but I have to sell them. So that's something where if that was even offered closer to me, take a couple days and see how a door and a frame is actually installed and things like that. The automotive stuff, it's cool, but we don't do enough of it that I would necessarily take those classes, because the IC stuff, the master keying and things, that's what I do most of the time.
Right.
And even though I've been doing this for 4 more years now, there were plenty of things I learned from Bill.
That's great. That's great. That's great. I wanted to, let me ask you one more question, and then I'm going to let Bill kind of talk about some things that he has to talk about. Do you think that if Aloha, and I hope the board is listening, and I hope they're taking notes to this, do you think that it would be a good marketing technique and it would add value to the members if you got a new sign up, like if they told the members that are currently here, if for every person, or if you get a new member signed up, a new person to Aloha, we will give you and them one free class during the seminar. Do you think that would really increase people wanting to spread that knowledge to the other locksmiths they know? Because I know every locksmith in this room knows 10 more, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no faster way to grow the organization than internally, but they have to motivate people to do so. So if you give both the person who gets a new person and brings them in, give that person a free class, and give the new person a free class, so that when they show up, they're already being drawn into the classes. If you had just come to the trade show, would you truly have appreciated the education? You didn't take it, so you don't know.
Yeah,
so Aloha needs to get that message out there. And I think that would be a perfect way to do it. I'm not speaking for them. I'm not on the board. I want to 100% make that clear. I'm not making any decisions right now. I'm just laying out, I'm a marketing guy. I'm a businessman, okay? I know how to sell things, and I know how to market things, and I know how to push products, right? And services. So I think right now, if they were to blast it out to everybody, hey, you know what? We're going to try and increase membership. Here's what you get. Here's what we're going to give you in order for that return. And then those new people that come in, show them that value. Come take a class. See the ACE difference. Aloha's instructors and Jim Hancock always prides themselves on being the top tier of the industry's instructors. That's why it's taken me 4 years to get my ACE certification, for crying out loud. Okay, so they really pride themselves on it. So flex that. Flex it.
I think that would be.
So you think that would be enticing for you? This is what worked for you, right? And that's all I'm doing is just bringing to light what already worked. Instead of giving away so many full week packages, maybe break those up into some smaller ones and give people 1-day packages. Because you're right, some people can't afford it. And I brought this up the very first, I brought this up almost every time I talk. For a business owner like me to go to a 1 week of trade show and conventions, I make $1,200 a day while I'm home running my business. So I lose $1,200 a day while I'm gone. Times that by 5, right? So you got at least $6,000, $7,000 in lost wages and revenue. Now I got $1,000 in travel, plane tickets, driving, fuel, whatever, food. You're probably going to have another $500,000. Hotel stay, you're going to have, $700 to $1,000 right in there. Costs $10,000 by the time it's really all said and done to go do this thing. So you really need to prove what that value is. Do you agree with everything that I'm saying? Do other people in the room agree with what I'm saying? Mark, do you have anything else to say to that, or do you want to let Bill go ahead and take over on this one?
I've probably talked enough. I'd like to hear what our leadership has to say about that. You have to remember that guys like Tyler, Guy, and myself, we're just one representative in the room, and it's an elected body, and we all have voting. Yeah. So there may be a great idea, and then the big question comes into play: how do we pay for it? And so then all the back and forth happens for an hour, and then you get nowhere. But I do believe that when you bring in people, you should be rewarded for that. The sponsorships can be collected, and anyone, just to answer Chang's question, anyone can sponsor, any ALOA member can sponsor. They don't have to know you personally. If you don't have a sponsor and you want to reach out to one of the board members like a director, we'll be happy to sponsor you. And it doesn't count against us if you've got a bad background and you never get your membership. So we don't ever hear anything anyway. But no, we're happy to bring more people on. You can use my name, Tyler's name. We'll bring people on board.
Mine, whatever, I've sponsored a ton of people. I'm happy to do it, as long as I'll usually ask for them to send me some information so that I can look you up a little bit, make sure, you're legitimate before I'll put my name on it. But definitely, I'm happy to sponsor anyone here. I put my email address in the comments section. It's tricountylocksmithservice@gmail.com. If you can't find me on social media, you must be blind, because I'll be everywhere on there. Just find me, private message me, email me. I want to see it grow, and I'm happy to sponsor you, and not haphazardly sponsor you. I'm happy to sponsor you in a professional manner. And so that's what I would like to go ahead and do there. And really, if you want to talk about bring these numbers to the actual next board meeting, and what I just said, give a class away to the person that brought you that new member, and give a class away to the person who's coming into it, show them what that has to offer. And then if you create a 5 or 10 year veteran out of that person, at $200 and whatever dollars a year, there's $2,000. Don't tell me there's not any money to be made right there. When you ask about how it's going to get paid for, that's how you pay for it. You're going to give away one class so that you can get another 10-year or 20-year member. That's how you pay for it. So thank you. Thank you again. I appreciate all your comments. Bill, go ahead, please. The president and leader of the organization, like to give a big hand and round of applause. Please let us know what you have to say, and let us know your thoughts on all of this conversation, and just any general thoughts about the convention in general.
That title is head flunky. You
Yes,
laugh about that. The president really has no power. The board has all the power in Aloha.
Sure.
The president's a figurehead. He passes on what the board decides on. He's the public spokesman for the board, but that's it. The board actually decides everything.
Right.
I've heard several people say, does this ever get brought to board? Everything I've ever heard mentioned like this is brought up for discussion to the board.
And the board meeting, the general members can attend the board meeting, right?
Oh, yeah.
I've done it and made these suggestions. I brought up webinars years ago, and it never even came to fruition until the pandemic happened. That was something that I had a problem with, but I brought it up. I offered solutions, and nobody acted on it. And then when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden, okay, well, yeah, now let's do it. Now it's a big thing. So I wish they would have listened to me earlier, but I don't hold any grudges against it, because I can only come and offer what I have to offer. If they don't want to take it, that's fine. We'll wait until it's appropriate, and then we'll move forward from it. So yes, you don't make all of the decisions. However, there are a lot of board members in this meeting right here tonight that will get together and that can bring these things up. And I hope everybody's taking notes. I can send a recording of this. So if you guys want to play this meeting at your next board convention, or at least email it out so they can all watch it, so everybody's on the same page, that could be a useful tool. This is why this tool is so useful. We can communicate now. You can hear from non-members and members and new members and old members and board members, and we can play this back and everybody can listen to it so that we're all on the same page.
Okay, just want to say, while you're talking about that, most of the board meetings right now are by Zoom, because we have to save money.
Yeah.
So if you want to take time, you can attend by Zoom meeting. You don't have to drive to Dallas or fly to Dallas and sit in the board meeting for 2 days.
Send me a link to the next meeting.
You can just pop in by Zoom, take a look at it, find out what's going on. Unless we're in executive session. Now we have to go to executive session. We discover salaries or something like that. That's it. Except for that, everything is wide open. Anybody can attend.
That's good. And send me a link to the next one, and I'll stop by and I'll bring a couple of these points up again. And like I said, I'll disperse this information as such. So, but I think we have a really powerful tool here with this monthly meeting. I mean, we've got, 20, 30 people showing up. And then after that, the recording usually gets watched about 200 to 300 times. So you're going to get an audience of about 300 people. Maximize it. what other message does Aloha have, and what is your take on all of the topics that we've discussed so far?
Well, to go back to one thing you brought up online learning several years ago. The way the board is set up, we set goals that we want for the staff to do. The staff actually is supposed to implement them. So if the staff doesn't do, we can go back and fuss at the staff, but I know years ago we were talking about that, and the staff wanted to do professional.
Right.
They wanted to buy a camera and all this video equipment to do a really professional video, which you don't really need.
But that's saying that you're waiting for something to happen that's not going to happen and that's not necessary. When somebody like me can provide you with content and the other classes that are already, I mean, a PowerPoint presentation presents extremely well on Zoom, So we're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and that's fine. But at some point they have to say, okay, let's just put something together, put it out there, and at least prove the concept. Once you have proof of concept, then we can decide how much money we need to allocate it and how professional you want it to be. Right?
I would agree.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, and I'm not offended at all. I just brought it to the table. It didn't happen. The stars aligned a few years later. Now it's working, and we've done webinars with Aloha, and we've done live classes. It's working out great. I'm just saying this could have been utilized, and we could have been a little bit more prepared before, but it's in the past. But again, I'm bringing it to the table, and it's here. And now that's another asset that Aloha has to offer, is in-home classes that don't cost that much. So this is great. I think they're all great moves in the correct direction. I really think that this team and this board is moving things in the right direction relatively quickly. I really do want to congratulate everybody that's on the board for that. And I've said it multiple times. Nobody has any idea of what goes on behind the scenes to get these trade shows and events ready. They really, really don't. The planning, the packaging, the teachers, the instructors, what happens if somebody doesn't show up? What do we do with the students? Can we get somebody to fill in? I mean, it's an absolute logistic nightmare. Can you guys agree with that, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that
I'll get you in just one sec, Steve. I see your hand is up. Go ahead, Tyler.
You just hear on either ClearStar or Locksmith Nation or wherever it may be, is that they're not doing this, that, and the other. But all these suggestions we hear after the fact. We don't hear anything beforehand. We all have email addresses that are printed in keynotes. We have phone numbers. You can call us, email us, or whatever. We don't hear it. So I don't understand the impetus to gripe and complain if you're not letting us know. How else? We're not mind readers. So if you have a problem, bring it to one of us. It doesn't have to be your director. It'll get relayed no matter what. So if you have a suggestion, a complaint, whatever it may be, bring it to one of our attention. I'll bring it up.
Sure. And I want to congratulate you. I know that not a lot of people have actually followed through with a grievance. I actually followed through with a grievance through SAFTA, and it was answered, and it was responded, and it was acted upon. So I want to congratulate that.
You and Chris Huffstetler had the same, both members had a grievance, and it was acted upon. And you two are the only ones that have done it recently in modern memory that I know of.
And we didn't just complain. I went through the proper channels.
You did that, and you got answers.
Yes,
but
sir.
Everybody, other people would just, whine and complain and whatever. But when you go through the proper channels and protocol that are there, results happen.
You have to both be motivated enough to bring the problem to the proper people's attention, and you have to take massive action to do your part to see that change that you want to see happen. I've been on the whole perspective of it, and I've seen how it works and how it doesn't work. And if you put into it what you want to get out of it, it will happen. I guarantee it. I've seen it happen personally. So thank you, Tyler. I appreciate that. Steve Lasky, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. I've been in the locksmith industry on the publishing side since 1992. And I remember when Gail Johnson dragged me to my first Aloha show, in '92 when after we had just taken over from, I had just taken over for Bill Reed. And, I've been going to security shows forever, or not for a while before I took over at Locksmith. But, just as our magazine is seeing a changing demographic in our industry over the years, with it, our demographic getting progressively older.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear, I have not been to an ALOA show in 5 years, I admit. The last two because of COVID. We've got a new member of our staff, Will Christensen, who's also here. This year was his first ALOA show. And I'm, planning on making it a regular again once everything clears up. But my question is, to Bill and to Mark, again, I had a very strong relationship, as did Gail, with the ALOA folks, years back. How does an association keep up with a changing demographic, and how do we bring in, people like Wayne and like Jeff and younger folks that are going to make a difference, because they're going to be the lifeblood of this. And it just seems that the demographic, the changing demographic, may not be keeping up with the influx of younger people that are getting into the industry. I'm just seeing that off our publication, where we've seen the demographics change drastically. How do you address that? I mean, it's a big question. I know I'm very happy to see what ALOA is doing now. I mean, it's a lot more progressive than it had been in the past, where everybody was taking shots at the organization, and I'm a big supporter. But how do you keep up with the changing demographic and make it relevant to people coming in? And are there enough people coming in to make it relevant?
And
I
Steve,
think we're at a crossroads.
that's been the absolute problem, Steve. You've got a board of directors, which is a bunch of old gray hair guys,
Right.
who sit on their little thrones and they act like everyone else is below them. And over the past several years, I've seen that attitude change in this organization.
Right.
I mean, look, we've got a guy now who's got a man bun on his head, and he's just all about it. So we're bringing in the younger guys has helped open the eyes of the older guys. Now, I'm 58. I've been in this industry for 40 years. I still feel young, and I want to grab hold of younger guys. I enjoy training them, starting them from the ground up, and that's what makes the difference for me. So, for me, there's no secrets anymore. The internet is out there. We're not going to stop guys from posting our secrets on the internet. The thing is that we all need to be professional about how we do that stuff, and try to teach this craft downline in the proper manner. Can you learn 20 ways to do something on YouTube? Absolutely. But which one of them is correct? You have no idea until you get in that classroom with Bill Link and you truly discover what the factory recommends and why our education is built around it, and our certification process reinforces it. So all of these things do matter, but we are trying to make a true effort to work downline to get younger and younger people involved. But what do they feel? They don't feel like they've paid their dues. They don't feel like they know anything. Believe me, a guy who's been in this 10 years, if he started when he was young, he knows enough to get involved and get active in these boards, whether they're at the local level, the state level, or the national level.
I feel like Wayne, we being Locksmith, the Locksmith Ledger and all the other things that we did, we used to do our own shows. We used to do the Ledger Worlds in Reno every year. We used to do a lot of things on a regional basis. And when I was publisher of Locksmith, and then when Nancy Brokamp took over as publisher, we made a real concerted effort to work with the board to try to have some partnership relationships with the association, and bring our readers on board and help with education, anything that we could help. And again, like you said, back in the day, and it wasn't that far long ago, it was more of an old boys club than it was an association to help members. And I'm seeing that's changing. But again, we'll offer you the same pledge that Wayne and some of the younger guys are throwing out, that, since we're really, except for Keynotes, the only magazine left in the left standing here after 80 years, we would love to be a partner with Aloha on any level, Bill, and rest of you folks. We really would love to work with you. You just let us know how and when and what we can do. Will, I know you told me not to do this to you, but I'm going to make you jump on anyways. You don't have to get on camera. But this was your first Aloha show, and as a younger guy who's sort of new to the industry, what did you feel the show was all about this year? Hopefully his name's just not up there and he's taking there he is.
No, I didn't go get a drink. No,
I
it
didn't
was
put you on the spot.
other than the cowboy show that was going on next door. I thought it was really cool. I didn't attend any classes, so I can't comment on that, but it was nice to see everybody in the industry in one place. It was nice to see manufacturers and distributors, and it was nice to see locksmiths who I hadn't yet met after 2.5 years of being here. So it's from my standpoint, which is a little bit different than most of the professional people. It was an interesting show in that it isn't super huge like ISC West. It's a good show. Everybody is there because they want to be. There's lots of information, lots of contacts to be made. So I liked it.
That's great. That's great. I wanted to address some of Steve's comments and questions there. And one of the things that I brought up in the meeting is that Aloha has to be more involved with social media. And again, I'm never going to bring a problem up without coming up with a solution. So I volunteered my time until they can, find somebody better or find somebody that wants to do it more or whatever. So hopefully I'll be able to help set up a lot of those pages. I actually set up the very first Aloha and SAFTA private groups on Facebook so that nobody else would steal them. I just did it all on my own and then just turned that over and gave it back to. I don't even know if you guys even know that I did that stuff, but I set those pages up knowing that either somebody else was going to steal them and hold them hostage, or they could have been running a bad reputation, with the full intent of giving the reins back over so that it could be ran by the organization, because I saw the value in it way ahead of anybody else. So I do plan on trying to add more stuff and make it look like a party. Like I said, you have to make this thing in this high energy world. I do research on marketing and social media marketing all the time. I teach the class for social media marketing. And you have 3 seconds to gain somebody's attention on Instagram, TikTok, or any other platform these days. People have a 3-second attention span. How is Aloha supposed to grab somebody's attention in 3 seconds? You have to make it look like a party. You have to have all of the people there encouraged to post things to social media to make it look like a party. And then when you have larger organizations like Steve Lasky with Locksmith Ledger and all of the board members, you should be sharing each other's posts. That's how you get it to actually spread. If I share something Steve posts, it gets in front of 5,000 more people than it would have if he just posted it, and vice versa. The same thing on LinkedIn, Facebook, all of these different ones. We all need to interconnect and share those posts, get that information out there, make it look like an awesome party, make it look like the highlight of the year, and give little teasers on the classes that they have to offer. When somebody just starts to hang their shingle and say, I'm a locksmith now, they get all their information and education from YouTube. Why don't we have little teaser videos on there that don't show how to do something, but let you know where to find the information on how to do it properly? The best education in the world doesn't mean anything if nobody knows where to find it.
Wayne, you're absolutely correct. And if you'll remember my statement from earlier, you got a bunch of old gray hair guys in the room. I mean, you're talking about guys who some of them still don't have email addresses. And that's why when you want to only do a digital content newsletter, you get so much resistance at the state level, the local level, whatever. So you guys are on the absolute precipice of when this change and shift is going to happen. Now, guys like Wayne have known about this for 15, almost 20 years, but the rest of the organization is just now coming to the understanding that this is needed. And we actually have somebody on staff whose real role is in education, but she's taken it upon herself to get more involved with our social media. Is it a perfect footprint? Absolutely not. Does it market us really well? Not so much. But is somebody doing something? Absolutely, which is better than nothing. Right. So people like Wayne can definitely help with our social footprint. And the more young blood we get in, the more value, understanding, and agreement that this is an extremely important aspect to market the organization.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We got a couple hands up here. Bill, go ahead and please go next.
I'd just like to check on something Will said back there. He mentioned a good old boys club. I've been a Aloha member since 78, a long time now. And about 15, 20 years ago, yes, it was a good old boys club. If you wanted to talk to executive director at that time, I tried walking up to him to talk to him, and he just turned his back on me and walked off. He did not want to hear from the members at all. Mary May is totally different. She wants to talk to everybody. She'll take care of problems. The board right now is open. You can get hold of them. They respond to things. It's just an entire different world right now than it was 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Now, we'll say that about 15 years ago, they started a program. They wanted all the Aloha members to get certified. That was a fiasco that we've never recovered from. And the reason why, you guys
did a new Coke.
Well, the reason why was the presentation of it. Essentially, the members thought when they read it that if you didn't get a certification within 2 years, you were going to be kicked out.
Yeah.
They thought, well, I'm not going to get certified, so I'll just quit paying my dues now.
Right.
That was not what the program was. The program was just trying to get you certified. They were never going to kick anybody out, but that's the understanding that came across, was that in 2 years, you're gone if you don't get certified. That cost us a lot of members, and it's been a real fight to get them back since then.
Yep.
But that has never happened.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. And I've really noticed the reason that I'm doing these Zoom meetings, the reason that I'm interacting with a lot of people, the reason we started Locksmith Nation, the reason I do every single thing that I do is because I saw these things starting to pull apart, and I saw the retraction from the associations, all the way from the local, all the way to the national level, and seeing the numbers dive and seeing people not needing it anymore. There was a time when Aloha was the only place you could get education. Ledger, Aloha, or the National Locksmith was the only places you could get education. Now there's an overabundance of education, and it's not all quality education. So we need to focus on all of the things that encompass what Aloha has to offer. And you need to really shine a bright light on it and let people know, because they're not going to come beating on your door anymore. You have to offer and give first, and then the people will come back.
Well, the membership meeting, I had to bite my tongue when the young man you heard at the membership stood up and said, I learned everything I know on YouTube. And the first thing I thought, I turned around to Mary May and said, yep. And he's going to have to forget half of what he learned, because half of what he learned is not accurate.
Right.
You've got to know who you're learning from. YouTube is great on some things, but you got to know who you're listening to, and that they know what they're talking about.
It's an 80-20 rule. It's 20% decent information, 80% junk in my mind. Guy, I see your hand up. I see Ray, you're next. Let's let Guy go first. Go ahead.
Hey there, I just had a couple questions. So what's the defined role of Aloha? Like if someone says, hey, what is Aloha and what can it do for me? What's that definition look like?
I'll have to let a board member answer that. I've got my own opinions, but.
Let's see, education and meeting people.
Networking.
To do the main thing is education. We're a nonprofit organization under the IRS rules as an educational entity. We have
so what are those? what do those opportunities look like? Is it education via the ALOA show or the trade show once a year, or what does that look like?
Mark, answer this, please.
Yeah, Guy, we are an education organization. That is the thrust of why we exist. And we do that education every chance we get. Like Guy mentioned earlier, we were forced into finding a way to do it when the pandemic hit. We have created the ability to do that via Zoom meetings. We have created the ability to have smaller classes inside of our own warehouse or at small hotels near the Dallas headquarters. Our ACE instructors go out nationally all year long and teach at various distributor expos. We almost solely blanket the IML shows and the Annixter shows with ACE instructors to teach those classes. So that really is our strong suit, and it's available almost anywhere you can see our logo.
Perfect.
So I guess my question kind of comes back to, where does that value come in? And if it's an education-based association, where do we define on a nationwide level where that value comes in? And ultimately, you're only as strong as the amount of dollars that you can spend, especially as a centralized organization. So how do you increase revenue? You've got to have more members join. And by virtue of growth in membership, you have to show more value to those to try to coax them into your association. Has in the past, have you guys ever worked more closely with state or local associations?
Oh, absolutely. We work very closely with them. And I think that the biggest issue is just the lackadaisical attitude towards being a member of association. We have an entire younger generation that doesn't think they need to be a part of anything. They have grown up sitting in their bedrooms with Game Boys in their hands and only looking at a computer screen by themselves. They like being reclusive. Understanding that mentorship can really take you a long way is a whole new concept for them. So coming back to the point of, I'm a young man, and if I learn something from my father or my grandfather or my great-grandfather, why can't I learn something from my boss and then become better at what I do through that education? There's nothing more valuable than being trained by somebody who has a lot more experience than you. So ALOA's thrust of education being done all over the nation at different parameters gives us that value point of, you have it in your face all the time. And the cost of membership is offset by how many classes you take, because you are discounted. There's a completely different price for somebody who's a non-member compared to somebody who is a member. And I can personally tell you that I cannot afford not to be a member of the 10 different organizations that I'm involved with on a yearly basis. I kid you not, get so much more out of these organizations to apply in my business, information in my brain, and relationships that I've built that actually steer money into my business. There's a man on this screen right now, and I do all of the work for his company in Southeast Texas. And he pays me a lot of money to do it. He doesn't question my invoices. And what he knows is he's going to get quality work. And if there's a problem, we'll take care of it.
Right off the bat. Yeah. And I just wanted to throw a couple little things in there too, from my perspective. As far as adding value goes, just imagine if there wasn't any organization out there right now. And it's been talked about many times in Locksmith Nation as maybe Locksmith Nation should become an association. And I keep trying to stamp that out, because there's already one here. There's already a great association here, and there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. We just need to turn the steering wheel a little bit to direct it in the manner that we want it to go. But how cool is it that we have a convention, that we have a trade show, that we have vendors there to be able to see the newest and latest and greatest and coolest products on the market? How cool is it that we get to see the people that we interact with online all the time and meet them in person and shake their hand and find out what kind of a person they are in real life, and go out and have a beer with that person or go out and have dinner with that person and meet new people all along the way that you would have never bumped into before. There's no other way to get that intimate contact deep in the heart of the industry than through Aloha. There just isn't.
I don't necessarily, sorry.
Go ahead, guy.
I was going to say, I just haven't seen a very good conduit for the dissemination of that education, right? So I've been a member for a long time. I'm a second generation locksmith. You know, I grew up learning like many of the old timers, even though I wear young skin. I feel like an old guy in the industry. But that being said, I most often see association members participate on a higher level, on a local level, right? So finding a way to have the conduit from the national organization to have a conduit to the local association in order to direct, to have directives and say like, hey, this is something that we think everyone should know, whether it's, you have an association that's quarterly meetings, monthly meetings, yearly meetings, whatever it is, there should be a minutes that are read from the ALOA education membership that says, hey, this is something that we're trying to tackle. This is something we want to put out and spread it amongst the community. But, as a suggestion, which, hey, in Tyler's defense here, I'm very much against being the good idea fairy and like, hey guys, y'all could have told me before you came up and complained. This isn't a complaint. It's a suggestion. I don't fill out the ballot box and turn it in. But like Wayne said, I think being able to offer something not necessarily for free, but something that's going to increase value would be to try to connect with each of the local associations and then designate an education director for each association that is in direct communication with ALOA. So when you decide to disseminate things from ALOA, whether it's a structured education, webinars, things along those lines, you have an email list that you can blast to the head of education of every association. So that way you can start a channel that allows things to come from the top down, that allows for, let's just say someone's meeting in May in a certain state or a certain area, and they can have an ALOA ACE certified instructor attend that meeting and provide ALOA based education at that local level to help kind of disseminate and add value. Because that's where the mentorship is going to come in. As much as I'd love to be mentored over Zoom, having an old guy be able to show you with his hands, how to, repin a cylinder or whatever the case may be, is very valuable. But I think it happens on a local level more especially.
Okay, so I just want to pop one little thing in there real quick, and then go ahead, Tyler. I'm sorry to cut you off here, but I think I've got a really good perception, and I think maybe if the board could take a couple of notes right here with what I'm going to say, this might be relating to exactly what you want to hear, Guy. What if ALOA offered webinar classes, more of their classes online, and allowed the local locksmith associations to be able to utilize that education, and then we could come up with either a group rate, ALOA could come up with a group rate based on per person, or they could allow that class to go out and then they could recoup if they wanted a certification. Now, if you take the class, you get the information, ALOA is remaining more relevant out there in the locksmith community and getting that exposure that it needs. It's providing education and content to your association. And then if those individual people need CEU credits, they can pay their $35 or $40 or whatever it is to ALOA, and they can get their certification and get their CEU credits. I'm sure you could also call up and they will, if you contact Jim Hancock, he'll send an instructor out. I mean, if you guys have the money to pay for it, he'll send an instructor out there and he'll go do it. I mean, tell me that's not true.
Well, and on that, like they'll pay for it, right? So so we've got to increase value, right? So obviously you can't do anything without dollars, but if you have a local association that has a certain number of ALOA members, right? If you say, if 10 ALOA members are in attendance, then we'll send an instructor or something along those lines to incentivize people to join on the local level and kind of dangle that carrot. And then for the webinar thing, if you had a designated state or local association education representative from ALOA, they come in, and then you have a convention of states of sorts where you bring everybody in, whoever the education directors from all the associations to Dallas, and they all meet and say, hey, this is how we want to do it. This is the structure to try to help disseminate this information on a local level, I think would be really cool.
That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
shut
Those
up
are all
now.
great points. Go ahead, Tyler. I'm sorry. I did not mean to cut you off.
Well, we don't want to usurp what you're doing. SCLA and NCLA, they're autonomous. They're not ALOA chapters. You run things as you see it fit. What I will say is that your wife's done a good job with the security conference in South Carolina. So if you need any sort of support at a local level with the classes or the association meetings, just let me know. I'd be more than happy to help. But even if you were to host classes, nobody has to be a member. We'll be more than happy to help you with that, as long as they pay to attend the classes, lab fees, all that. More than happy to set it up. Don't have to join. Would love to have you, but don't have to join.
Yeah. Okay. Since he's addressing the board, I'm going to let Bill go ahead and go, and then we'll get to your question. I see your hand, Kelvin, so we'll get to you in just a second. Okay.
Yeah, three things I want to touch. One, you're talking about these classes. I know personally, because I went over to Syracuse, New York, because ALOA put on a class for them. The local association wanted a class. They put it on for that. And I went over there. Woody taught it, who was with us at that time. I was over there helping him out with it. I was not paid for it, but I went over there to help him out because I was Northeast director at that time. I felt it was my job.
Right.
You're talking about young kids coming in. I don't know how many of y'all met a young man named Fritz Bookman at the convention. He applied from Southeast Ohio, applied for membership. He did not have a sponsor. He was 18 years old at the time. He learned from a locksmith down in his hometown. The locksmith retired and moved out of the area and left him high and dry there. Well, he didn't have a sponsor, so I drove down there 3.5 hours on a Sunday and talked to him. His mother was there at the convention with him. His mother and his father are very interested in helping him start his own business. I talked to him into taking the ASF scholarship. He was in the fundamentals class there at Aloha. So you may have seen him around there. That is our future. That's the young people that are coming into it. There's old folks have been in it long enough, but the young people are coming into it.
Yeah.
And I started when I became president. We have what we call the ambassadors program. These are former board members who are usually going to these local association meetings. Well, the problem was when you get off the board, you're just cut off. You never get any more communication, anything like that. You cannot talk about what ALOA is doing or anything. Well, Mary puts out a monthly staff report, exactly what the staff's doing and what's going on, everything else. What I did when I became president was take out the financial, because the financial shouldn't be shared with everything. But everything else going on, the education, everything like that, the social media stuff, that all goes out to these ambassadors now. Because they're the ones going to these local shows. They can now talk. They can walk out and say, what's ALOA doing? Instead of saying, well, duh, I have no idea. They can now talk intelligently about what ALOA is doing and how it's doing it. And it does not cost me anything. It's an email, just one email blast out to these guys once a month. They can promote ALOA then. It helps.
Right. And I appreciate the way that everybody's bringing answers. I appreciate the way that members or non-members are bringing questions to the board members. And I appreciate the way that the board members are responding to it. And this is how you get things done. I think ALOA is a little bit behind on a lot of things, but I also am extremely excited about the future. I can see the brightness. There is a big shining light at the end of this darker little bit of tunnel. And I think there is that, like I said, things, associations and memberships were headed way back down because there's so many other options right now, but we have the ability to pull it back. We have the ability to get that interaction again. We have the ability, all we have to do, board members, all we have to do is generate the excitement and the atmosphere that was provided 20 years ago when you used to have to show up to a meeting in person, online. That's what you have to do. That's the magic. That's the key. And you will have way more. You're not going to get back what you lost. You're going to have more and exceed because you have these platforms and formats to reach so many more people. And there's so many more locksmiths in business now. You can't tell me there's not more locksmiths in business now than there was 20, 30 years ago. So I hope everybody is kind of paying attention to that, and we can go from there. Kelvin, your hand's been up for a little bit. Please go ahead.
Great discussion, guys. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I've been a member of ALOA for about 15 years or so. I've attended at least 3 of the conventions. I didn't get a chance to go this year because of just swamped with work. My son works with me, my son-in-law works with me, so we were just swamped. So I really couldn't take off, but I hear you guys had a great time. One of the things I would like to say, I think associations are very valuable. I like the Find a Locksmith portion of it. I've got a lot of business off people that just Googled Find a Locksmith, and I will come up. I've met some really good people. I've met some really good clients and customers that have been supporting me for years. The other thing I like is the referrals from the association. I know I remember LSA, and Bill, I've seen you at the LSA meetings in Michigan, and I'll get a lot of referrals from my associate members because some areas they don't service. So I would service those areas. So associations, I think, are very valuable. I think what we're really, as far as ALOA, I think one of the major problems is that the public really doesn't know what ALOA is. A lot of times I'll put the ALOA symbol on my cards and they'll look like, what is that? So I have to educate them about that. So I think if the public knew more what ALOA was and what we stand for and the high standards that we set, I think it will help us a lot as locksmiths, not just individual, but as a group. As far as the scammers go, I think every industry has scammers. We may not call them scammers. Lawyers are scammers. Some lawyers are scammers. I mean, every industry has them.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put the brakes right there. I appreciate you bringing that up. This conversation is going to go off the trains if we start talking about scammers. Here's okay. What you have to talk about scammers. Okay, the best tool and the best weapon to fight scammers is professionalism and the best business practices. Educate yourself and be professional. Scammers can't do those two things. If you do that and everybody in your community does that, that's the only thing that's going to fight against that. The ALOA doesn't have enough money to just throw money at attorneys and trying to catch people. They're not law enforcement. It's not their job. It's not a government agency and a task force to go out there and throw nets over them and catch them. Okay, so get this. ALOA is not your weapon to fight scammers. They're there to help. And the best way they can help is education and professionalism. So
you hit it on the head.
And I agree. And I didn't mean to bring it up, but the only reason why I brought it up because customers, they bring it to me. They'll say I had a guy that ripped me off. And then I would just let them know I'm not that guy. And I'll show up in uniform. I have signs on my truck. So they really see the difference right when I walk in by the way I carry myself.
The way you carry yourself.
Yes, and I accept credit cards and all forms of payment. Right. So they all automatically see that. So I agree with you. The way we fight that is basically just be professional, and customers will see the difference.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I agree with you. We don't have enough money to fight those guys. They're big.
It's a war you're never going to win, and every industry has it, and it's just crazy. But my thought on what ALOA is and how it could be is somehow, and I don't have an answer for this one, but I know that there are ways to start working with the public more. And this goes back to social media again. We have to get on these social media channels. We have to get on these avenues to reach the public as well. When you walk into a mechanic shop and you're going to get your van fixed, what's the first thing you look for?
Some sort of certification.
ASE certified.
Yes, or Better Business Bureau or something.
Or Better Business Bureau. So how can ALOA be the ASE certification of the locksmith trade? That's the combination. I haven't put all that together, but that's what the board really needs to do, and that's what the organization really needs to do to drive that home. That's the only way you're gonna educate the public, because they don't know what it means. They don't know what alphabet soup means after everybody's name. Yes, I can have a name tag that's this long with every letter under the sun, but nobody knows what it means except for us. Heck, I don't even know what half of them mean,
That's a great point. It's a great conversation. That's all I really wanted to say. But basically, I think there's still value in associations. And I think by us referring one another, if we don't service a certain product, that helps. I remember once I went to a Aloha convention and I didn't know about the Blue Punch. I mean, I kind of heard about it, but I was doing a lot of master keying with a Slade keyway. And one guy said, man, you need a Blue Punch. And man, that Blue Punch, it paid for itself the first month. I mean, that Blue Punch.
He was your friend.
I mean, I love that Blue Punch, man. It's like I didn't have to have any electricity, anything. And it was just so accurate. And it was all because of a conversation I had at lunch with an Aloha member at Aloha convention. And they were just talking about, I was like, man, what could I do? He said, man, get a Blue Punch. It's going to cost you $1,000, but it'll pay for itself.
It'll pay for
Sure
itself.
enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then
yes,
yeah.
it was so accurate. I mean, so efficient. And, you know, so those kind of things we always learn. We have face-to-face conversations. And sometimes people take that for granted. And then people say, well, it's going to cost me up front. But then again, do you pay now or do you pay later? Sometimes you have to sacrifice and make that, you know, bite the bullet, buy that machine or buy that equipment. It just makes your life easier. I see somebody put Pack-a-Punch. Yeah, I still have my Pack-a-Punch also. I wish they would have continued that thing because it's a great tool.
Bill's
That's all
got
I have
some.
to say.
Bill's got some info for you here. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, what Kevin was talking about, I used to go to the hardware sales show up in Livonia all the time. And several years back, they came out with the Bravo 3 key machine. At that thing, they had a special. If you bought a Bravo 2 machine, they gave you 1,000 free key blanks, either KW1 or XC1, you mix and match. I bought the machine for $600. I got 1,000 key blanks, half Schleg, half quick set. Within 2 months, I was ordering more key blanks. That machine was free. I've tried to talk to people about something like that, and they just can't, oh, but it cost you $600. I said, yes, but it paid for itself totally in 2 months' time, plus made a profit on it. And I could not convince them the fact that all they could see was the fact they were spending $600 right now out of their pocket. They couldn't see down the road a month or two.
Penny smart, pound foolish. So
And that
good.
machine is still sitting on my workbench, still cranking out keys every day.
I bet it is. I bet it is. I want to check and make sure that everybody's question got answered. So Guy, can you come back? Can you let us know? Did we answer all of your questions and did everything that you wanted to get out there get heard?
No one will ever hear all of my complaints in entirety or concerns. No, yeah, it's good. I mean, as long as people are talking about it, that's all you can ask for. And hopefully we'll continue to, move in the right direction.
You think we're moving in the right direction now?
Sure. I mean, step one is talking about it, admitting you have a problem.
Yeah.
And then moving forward. I mean, it's not necessarily it's a problem, right? It's just something that can be improved upon. Right, exactly. So as long as everyone continues to put energy behind it, it's going to turn out well. So.
Right. And everybody that's part of the association, it's like being on tug of war. If everybody's not pulling their weight, you're only going to get in you're only going to get out what you put into it. So just kind of keep all that stuff in mind. So thank you. Thank you for your comments. And I'm glad to at least hear that things are going in the right direction. Kelvin, did everything you have to say get answered? And are you satisfied with the way things are going? And do you see a bright future?
Yes, it's moving in the right direction. I think as far as we as Locksmiths has been around for a little while, because I've been doing this since 1993, and I told my son in 5 years you could have this, so you could do whatever you want to do with it. But I'll be teaching this. I'll still be involved. I'll be teaching it. Actually, I have my Aloha instructor certification. I've just been so busy with the business, I haven't been able to stop, but I'm gradually working my way out of the business where I don't have to actually be there from day to day. I think what's important for us as far as we have sons or daughters to start teaching them the profession if they want to be a part of it. And they don't necessarily have to do the day-to-day stuff, but at some profession, whether they're just cutting keys or working on master key systems, but some sort of way we have to get our families involved. And I think that will help us all out because especially if they're younger, of course they're younger than we are, But yeah, I think it's a bright future. A lot of good guys are coming in. Of course, you have guys that should be in the business, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Right, right. Yeah, and I like that. And let me extend a handout. If you ever want to pick a topic on a class and you want to design a class, please, by all means, use me as a reference. I'm happy to look over things content-wise, help you start editing, PowerPoint, any of those questions. I extend myself and my resources to you.
Well, thank you so much. You might be getting a call sooner than you think.
That's fine. I wouldn't have offered if I didn't want it. So very good.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, appreciate it. Any other questions? Bill, go ahead.
I will say, when they tested a while back between the difference between, say, YouTube and Aloha, I don't know if a lot of younger kids that I know as older people learn best by hands-on. If we can handle the product and actually mess with it, we learn a lot better that way than just seeing a video of how to do something.
Right.
And that is the whole idea of Aloha. Teaching is it's a hands-on type teaching. It's not just a purely instruction over the internet.
No. And I 100% agree with that. But what I think is that there's a perfect blend, if you will. For example,
Oh, yeah.
if I wanted to see, if I wanted to test and say, okay, well, I do a lot of commercial and residential work. I either want to try and do safe work or I want to do automotive work. Instead of spending $1,000 on a safe tech, like beginner and advanced and all that, really dive into it and spend all that money on that, not knowing if I want to get fully, jump in both feet yet. And then I spend the same amount and the time and expenses in live hands-on training for automotive classes. And then I only pick one or the other, or maybe I don't like either of them. I sure could have saved myself a lot of time and money by taking a 4-hour class on safe work and a 4-hour class online on automotive work, see which one I gravitated towards, and then spend my money to go take that online class. That in-person class. Online learning is only one step in the direction to get people to the hands-on class, in my opinion.
Well, you did bring up the point about promoting Aloha. You have to stop and think. Years ago, it was extremely expensive to do, because the only thing you didn't have social media years ago.
Right.
You had to go to the newspapers. You had to buy space in it. It was extremely expensive to try to promote anything. Now it's a lot cheaper to do it, since you can go to Facebook or TikTok or something like that and put something out there and thousands of people read it immediately. It's a whole different world.
It is. So why not capitalize on it and maximize it to its fullest potential and make the association what it was and then some. I don't think the goal should ever be to be back where Aloha was. I think the goal is to blow those numbers out of the water and be 10 times what it was before, because you just said you can reach more people faster and cheaper. Why are we not bigger? So that's the direction I think we should be headed. Go ahead, Mark. Anybody else?
Yeah, Wayne, really, we have the exact same problem every other professional organization in the world has.
Yeah.
How many of you go to take your baby to a pediatrician, okay? And that pediatrician, you're putting your trust for your child in their hands. And do we really ask whether they're members of the Pediatrician Association of America? So until we see that hanging on their office wall or see their degree, we don't know. And then you add another word to that, dentistry. So now we're at a pediatrician dentistry location, and they've got their own association. We're all in this together. Really, locksmithing is this niche of old world knowledge with new world knowledge now, with all the smart stuff going on. So we've really got to do what we can. And for years and years, we've always heard, put your Aloha logo on your business card. That gives you the opportunity to tell any customer, hey, here's my card. You'll see that I'm a member of the national organization. We're all professionals. It took 2 seconds to say that, and it may make the difference.
Put it on the trucks. Put them on the trucks.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we look, you have a serial number that comes with your rights to the Aloha logo, to where if you have that number correctly under that and any other guy wants to check that out, he can call the Aloha office and say, does this Aloha number match this logo's use on this guy's truck? And that's how we catch the scammers using our logo illegally.
Yeah.
So and we've gone after them. Don't get me wrong. We've spent hours in the boardroom chasing these guys and having interviews with them. But like Wayne said, that's a topic for another day.
Right.
But we greatly appreciate everyone's input. And I'm on this call tonight because I was invited by Wayne. I've been on a couple of other of these calls, and I commend the efforts for the national level to come together. And Wayne, you couldn't have said a more wise thing earlier when you said, I don't think I want national, the Locksmith Nation to become its own association. Why reinvent the wheel? Like you said, if you want to get involved with hairy big contracts where you have to spend $140,000 in food bills just to make the day go by, good luck with that. It's not fun.
No.
And if y'all were there in Vegas and you packed in on sodas and coffee and cookies at the breaks and had great lunches, it's because to get that venue and use all that space, we have to spend a lot of money on food. And you guys have to book the rooms. And these conventions are scary for the board members. We see the real numbers behind the scenes. Tyler's smirking at me right now, and he knows we're both sweating bullets sometimes, but it is what it is. And we thank all you guys for your attendance. And you know, hopefully, if the trends are accurate, what Tyler and I have both seen in our regions is a plateau of shrinkage stop. Both of us had across the board growth in our divisions, in our regions in the past 3 months, from the spring board meeting to this summer's board meeting. So hopefully we are on a climb again, and we can truly resurrect this organization for bigger and better things to come.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've said it several times. Your current members are your greatest asset. Find a way to leverage and motivate them to push the association for you. The directors should be focusing on their smaller associations. The smaller associations should be pushing out on each one of their members and push this thing out there. Everyone in this room, every locksmith knows a locksmith that knows 10 other locksmiths that aren't members and could possibly be potential members. And there's no reason that this thing couldn't catch fire and quadruple in size in years, not decades. There's no reason it can't happen. We have the tools. I heard something very, very good the other day. There's never a lack of resources at your disposal this day and age. There's only a lack of resourcefulness. And that's what we need to do. We need to get resourceful. Okay. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for all of your comments and input. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Any other members have any message to get to the board members that are here, or any questions for me? I'm happy to answer anything and be 100% transparent through this procedure.
When's the next one?
We usually try and do the monthly meetings the first Monday of every month. I was just spent and worn out and putting out fires when I got back, so I couldn't do it. But first Monday of every month, 5 p.m.
I'll see you in September.
All righty. Anything from anybody else? Bill, do you want to put the final words on this one, or?
I just want to say, if anybody wants to run for the board, you want to make a difference to Aloha, all you got to do is get a certain number of signatures. It's right on the website. That's it. You don't have to be a big company. Bobby DeWeese was a single person. He was Northeast director for 6 years. And one person company, and he did it for 6 years. Anybody can do it. If you want to be on the board, all you have to do is apply for it and run.
Can you tell us some of the responsibilities and what is it take to be a board member? I mean, don't oversimplify it, but what are you really expected to do, and what is expected of a board member?
You're expected to be at the national convention, a certain number of days there, work in the Aloha booth, a certain 2-hour things on Saturday and Sunday, attend the board meeting on Sunday morning. Then there's 2 other board meetings a year. Used to be 4, we've got down to 2 now. So there's 3 board meetings totally. As I say, most of them are by Zoom, so they don't have to be there. You do cover your room and travel if you want to. A bunch of us have never put in for travel or room for anything, so we figure we owe it to Aloha for being old time members.
Yeah.
Except for that, basically attend the any conventions, anything in your area.
Get involved.
Like I covered Denver for our Intermountain a couple of months ago, because Guy Robinson couldn't make it. He made it for the classes on Thursday, but he couldn't stay Friday for the show. So I went out and covered that one. That would ordinarily have been, would be required to cover that, but that's also why we have the ambassadors. For some reason, you are tied up, you're really busy, you can't make for that. We can have one of the ambassadors cover a Aloha booth for that. We want to have representation at all these different shows, not just to pick up members, but to show Aloha, and anybody that wants to can see we are still there, we're still active.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
But a lot of the work on the board is done by committees. A lot of just on computer time, back and forth to each other and all.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you and Mark and Tyler and everybody that spoke today, but specifically thank you to the board members that are taking their time, and they're showing you. These guys right here are showing you they're here. They're listening with open ears. They want ideas. They want this thing to grow. Everybody does. Everybody wants to see it succeed. Everybody else has to just play their part too. So that's about all there is to it. Any other comments or questions from anybody else? Now's the time. Don't be shy. All righty. We'll leave the microphone open for another minute. Tyler, Mark, do you guys have anything else to say?
Nothing beyond see you in September.
All righty. Sounds good. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you next month, and hopefully we'll continue to get this thing rolling. And I'd like to see this meeting have 50, 100 people in it. You know, there's value here. There's real value here, and help other people see the value in joining the meetings. Other than that, have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining, and thanks everybody for sharing. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.